A new look, Grand Slam Sports. My name is Jason Hunt. Alongside me over at the desk is Charles Foster and Jackson Strasburger. Let's get right into it first with the MLB and the recent news, guys, and Charles, more importantly for you, Vladdy Jr. might be testing FA next offseason.
Yeah, it's more than a might. We obviously saw Vladimir Guerrero Jr. set a self-imposed deadline to where he will be testing free agency. He will not be doing negotiations during the offseason. Obviously, Atkins and Guerrero were not able to find an agreement, and it's going to be rough for the Blue Jays to kind of figure out what they're going to do if they do end up losing Vladdy.
Yeah, I don't think this was a big surprise that he was going to test free agency. We kind of knew their numbers were very far apart, and Vlad thinks he could go into free agency. They can show possibly giving, or another team going to give him more money, going to give him a better chance to win. But I do think eventually he will just end up back in the Blue Jays jersey.
Yeah, I think Vladdy, he wants to be a Blue Jay. He said he wants to be a Blue Jay for life. They just need to agree on money. And if they're not winning and they're not agreeing on money, that's where the problems will lie. So, I mean, we kind of look at Jace. Obviously, you're AL East, you're a Yankees fan. What do you think the Blue Jays need to do to keep Guerrero?
Well, first off, I think this is very on par with the Blue Jays. They just can't seem to sign anybody good or keep anybody good. But, I mean, he deserves to be paid. This guy's one of the best players in the MLB for a reason. As a Yankees fan, I wish he leaves. I hope he leaves, goes to the NL or something for all I care, because this guy's a demon. But Vladdy Jr., he's going to get paid. I think the Blue Jays will pay him. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think this is not a surprise. I'm not surprised that Bichette is obviously, he's probably going to leave. But Vladdy, I mean, Atkins said, the GM of the Blue Jays said that they would be making him a top 10 highest paid player in the league already with the contract. And apparently they were nowhere near the mark. That does leave the question, how much is Vladdy asking for, despite being, yes, a top 5, top 10 player in the league? How much is he asking for to where him getting top 10 player money is not even in the ballpark?
And my thing is, I'm scared for the Blue Jays and their salary cap is how good is he now going to do this year? If he goes off and has one of the best seasons, wins an MVP years in that top 3 voting conversation, that adds another, $50 million to his total contract. And then maybe he will leave then and go to a bigger market.
Yeah, I think that now opens up the biggest question of Vladdy is, and Jace, I leave this to you, do you trade him at the midseason to get, potential pieces, or do you just risk the chance of losing him for free?
It's definitely a conversation to be had if he's going off. If you don't think that you can pay him, I think you do trade him to somebody that you can get pieces for. Obviously, it being a contract year, you're not going to get anything guaranteed, great in terms of, players and youth. But I think it is a conversation to be had. I think the Blue Jays will attempt to pay him. Obviously, they have to. I mean, this guy is their franchise, and this guy is somebody that they have to pay if they want to be competitive in the future.
I completely agree. And as we're looking at teams that are looking a little bit less competitive in the future, let's look at the Astros. The Astros losing Alex Bregman, and now we kind of have the question, is the Astros era done? Jackson, I start with you. What do you kind of feel now that they've lost Bregman, Tucker, and they're not going to have Christian Javier, and losing Verlander, and the list goes on? What do you feel that this Astros team now looks like?
I mean, this team was one of the best dynasties we've seen in just a baseball era to start with. Take the cheating scandal with or without. They were still a fantastic team. Altuve's getting older. He's moving to the outfield. Bregman's gone. Correa's gone. Springer's gone. You have a whole new team, but they still have this young talent in an almost struggling AL West division. They could still be a playoff team easily, with the biggest kind of contender being the Mariners.
Yeah, I mean, the division is very mediocre. And we see a team that, yes, they lost Tucker, but it wasn't for free. They got Isaac Paredes, who is he can hit the ball. And he struggled a little bit with the Rays. But I do believe that whenever he gets to Astros with that short porch in left field, he is going to play a lot better. And like you said, the AL West is struggling. It's not a good division. And the AL in general is a lot more open than it's been in past years. I don't think that the Astros era of being a top team is done, but I do not think they're not going to just go to obscurity. I mean, they still have a great team. They still have Framber. They still have all this young talent. Jace, I mean, I asked you, we look at the AL West, do you believe that the Astros come out on top, or do you see a team like the Rangers or Mariners taking that one?
I think the Rangers are going to have a better year this year. I think they'll recover from the bad year they had after winning the World Series. I think that they're going to win the AL West. Do I think the Astros era is done? I think it depends on how we define the word era. If we're talking World Series era, like you said, top contender, I don't think they're up there anymore. If we're talking playoff contender, they're still playoff contender. They're still going to be a playoff team, probably as a wild card team this year. But they have the roster. They still have Altuve. They still have enough pitching that I believe that they can still be a good team and a playoff team come October.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. We look at the Astros now, and the Astros, of course, Opening day, we know they won't have Christian Javier, and they just lost Verlander. Now pitching is the biggest question. They also lost Kikuchi. So, I mean, this is a team now that only has Framber Valdez, and then it dumps off to where their now second pitcher in the rotation was their fourth or fifth last year. What do they need to do to bring back the pitching that Dusty Baker had before he left?
I mean, you have to start with just any pitcher you can get. Getting more just players in the pen, in the rotation, any way you can kind of find it, that's going to be more useful than not having people. Because that's kind of, it's not even that they don't have good players. They don't have a lot of pitchers to start with. It's a limited amount, and then you have Framber, who is fantastic, to say the least, but you're missing something.
Yeah. I think Javier will be a big miss, and I do believe that, he obviously is coming back from Tommy John. I think Arrighetti will get a lot. He's a workhorse pitcher last year. So, I mean, as we look at those kind of top teams and those teams that will be coming back and breaking out next year, Jace, I start with you. What team do you believe will have the best breakout season this next year?
I was thinking Rangers, like I was saying. I think the Rangers will recover from what they did, but I think it's the Boston Red Sox. I, as a Yankees fan, hate that, but the Red Sox improved massively this offseason. They got pitching, they got hitting, they got enough things to work around what they already had built there in Boston, and the AL East is going to be mightily competitive. And with what Boston has built, I really, truly believe that they can be a World Series contender this year.
Wow, World Series contender. That is a pretty big call-up from not making the playoffs last year. But, I mean, that is fair. I know we talked before the show. Boston was also on your list. You had another team, not remembering what it was, so enlighten me. What was the other team that you were feeling like?
Yeah, I love this Boston team. I feel like that division is wide open for any of the 5 teams to really take it well.
Like
4 of the 5. But I think the Royals, they were a strong team last year, but they weren't a wild card winner. A division winner. Cleveland won the division. They made the wild card game, but not really the guy you want to see. Or you want to see Bobby Witt kind of step up in his role and see the Royals take a good jump.
And yeah, as we're going to stick to kind of AL with one of my teams here. I have 2 teams that I think will make the big jump. One AL, one NL. The AL team I think will make a jump will be the Oakland Athletics, or wherever they're from now. This is a team that in the second half of the season was hitting fantastically. Their pitching was great. They had the best closer in baseball. Their potential was there. We talked about how bad the AL West can be, and I do believe that the Athletics will, with their smaller ballpark, Lawrence Butler having a great season. They're going to have Jeffrey Springs, who pitched great for the Rays before Tommy John surgery. They gave Luis Severino, who was a solid pitcher for the Yankees and the Mets, a massive contract. But the A's are looking to spend. They do no longer want to be the Moneyball team. I believe that the A's are going to start to slowly turn things around. They're going to Vegas. You cannot go to Vegas with a crappy team. And the best way to have a good team in this league, especially with a Vegas market, is by spending money. I do believe that the Athletics will maybe not grow as much this year, but we're going to start to see them go back to playoff contention like we're so used to them seeing. On top of that as well, we have a little bit of an older team, but another team that we're used to seeing in the history books. We have the San Francisco Giants. San Francisco got Willie Adames to a 7-year deal, which I thought was a big, big, big signing. They had some great breakout players last year, and they got Justin Verlander despite losing Blake Snell. Obviously, they're going to struggle in this very, very top-heavy division, but I do believe that the Giants are going to turn things around for this team.
I also have an NL team that I'm thinking about, and that is going to be the Cincinnati Reds. They still have Ellie De La Cruz. I still think they're going to be pretty good there in the NL Central. I think it's wide open. I don't think the Cardinals are going to do anything, Jackson. I know you're shaking your head over there, but I don't think they're going to do anything good. I don't see anybody that can really – the Reds, they built something a little bit better than they've had in recent past, but that is what I believe for the NL. The Reds and the Mets are 2 good teams I could see improving. But now we're going to move over to you guys. The 4 nations came to a conclusion.
Yeah, 4 nations came to a conclusion, and what a conclusion that was. As we look at the 4 nations tournament, Canada, USA, pretty big rivalry, I could say, going on. We saw Justin Trudeau go to Twitter last night and talk his stuff about the U.S., and obviously we talked about 3 fights in the first 9 seconds, and Canada ended up keeping its title as the hockey country, taking out USA. What did you see in that game?
Being from the USA, I was definitely rooting for them, but this is one of the best games I've ever watched. In every single aspect of offense, of defense, of even the game being called, the fans, it was this different atmosphere that's going to bring new fans to hockey, and that's what hockey wanted here. It was during their All-Star break, and this was what they needed. You look at the NFL and NBA All-Star breaks were talked about, and were kind of like not liked by anybody. But now you see this hockey one kind of showing what to do. It makes it interesting to see what kind of leagues are going to do next year.
Nothing is more competitive in the world than competing for your country. And that's the way it is, and that's what brought fans. This was the most watched NHL event that's not playoffs ever. And we now see with the Four Nations tournament, we see people in USA, I mean, now that they're good and they're actually competing with Canada, you take to Twitter, you take to social media, and there's so many people like, I don't even know what hockey is, but I'm still watching this because, hey, I'm supporting my country. And that's the way it was. And you know, Canada, they came out and they showed why it's Canada's sport. And obviously Connor McDavid hitting that winning goal, just a fantastic game. And that right there was the best type of hockey that you can really ask for.
Jordan Bennington in the overtime played some of the best goalie I think I've ever seen played, and I watched him almost every single game in that 2019 Stanley Cup, and that was what previously was the best goalie. But I mean, just in that overtime period, he had probably had 4 saves, just throwing hands up and praying to block the puck, and it ended up working out. And then Connor McDavid takes it to the other way, a tough goal through traffic, and we saw a lot of that, a lot of traffic in front of the nets, and just kind of gets some tip pass and bounces in. Win the game right there.
Yeah, I definitely think it's nice for the U.S. crowds as well, because we already know, let's be honest, Canada and U.S. are not the best soccer teams. And it hasn't been a lot of entertainment when it comes to bringing in the nations and supporting your country. But having the U.S. and Canada, I mean, there's already the rivalry going on in, let's say, the political world. But now, I mean, that was a heated match. And, I mean, these two teams were, I mean, like the fan bases were going at it. I mean, they were fighting. That was entertaining hockey, and that is what hockey should be. I was very happy to see that from the Four Nations.
The 60 minutes of regulation was some of the best hockey I've watched, and then you add on extra time to that. It was, like I said, one of the best sporting events ever. I mean,
peak hockey there. But we are going to take a short break, and we're going to be right back. We're going to bring Nate Long back onto the table with me. We're going to talk about some basketball coming up next on Grand Slam Sports.
Moving into the NBA, the All-Star Game presented a new format this year, and, well, some mixed reviews on how this new format worked. Jackson, I'll just turn to you first to get your personal thoughts on this format. Did it work? Did it not? It's tough to tell.
It was better, I'll say that. There was more effort coming from specific players like Victor Wembanyama. He said he was going to try, and he definitely did, but there was some negatives as well. It was just kind of like when the rookies or the young guys came out there, we knew it was a blowout, and it was kind of who was going to win was known right at the start.
Yeah, because I mean, the way that they drafted the teams was very intentional. You had, you know, the OG team, you had the young star team, you had the rising stars team, obviously, who they weren't going to win a game. They weren't bound to win. It was pretty obvious what was going to happen throughout the entire All-Star Game format. But I'll turn to you guys at the desk, Nate and Charles, to get your guys' thoughts.
It was better, like we said. It was better, but that's not necessarily a big ask. It was a little bit more competitive. I don't like how short the game is. I mean, these are a bunch of all-stars and you're going to 40. I mean, that to me wasn't, and there was more commercials, almost double commercials than there was actual game time. That was the biggest issue, is it felt more like it was for the celebrities, not the fans. And it did feel like it wasn't as catered to the fans as it used to be. I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan of it, I would say that.
I agree to a sense of, you know, it was kind of just like geared towards not the fan. I would love for them to go back to the two teams, East, West, and maybe play for the home court advantage in the finals. I think that's the best option. The 4 teams, it's all right. It's all right. I mean, there was a little bit more competitiveness, a little more effort, which I love to see, but overall, no one really cared. I mean, at the end, I mean, what were they playing for?
Yeah.
And there was nothing. So if they're playing for that conference, that final home position, I think that's what will get effort up a lot.
Agreed. I mean, the NBA Finals, everyone's goal. Let's be honest. No matter who you are, it is your goal. That is definitely the biggest thing that needs to be fixed is the effort, but also less commercials. And if you're going to bring celebrity guests on, please don't have them talk in my ear the entire time. Kevin Hart was driving me crazy. I can tell you that much. So, I mean, I don't know. There's definitely got to be some fixes, but I do believe that Adam Silver is in the right direction.
Yeah, see, I also think that East versus West is the best way to go. I think that's the most natural format. It just makes the most sense. And if you compete for something like, you know, the NBA Finals home court advantage, then it would obviously add the incentive that gets them to try. I've seen an idea pitched by some people recently that I wouldn't mind, and that's like a 1v1 tournament. Just go out there and have some fun. Let the best players in the world play 1v1, see who's the best player.
I mean, there's so many ways this can go, and I definitely think playing for something is what we need to do. We see NHL play for their country. I don't feel like you can really do that in the NBA because there's one country that would dominate, and it would not be very fair. But seeing like something play for something, because you saw players in the NHL play through injury, and then you see LeBron James, the best player in the world, but best player right now, or history-wise, sitting out. He's somebody you want to watch play.
But for with the trades going on, Mark Williams, who was supposed to be a Laker, has since played the Lakers. He has returned to Charlotte, played one game at LA. Guys, he got dunked on by LeBron James. He got dunked on by what was supposed to be his teammate. But he's back in Charlotte.
Yeah, definitely a weird situation. We've seen with the Williams situation, a lot of drama going on. He tried to repeal the act. He tried to basically say, hey, all his injuries are documented, which I do agree with. I mean, I don't understand why the Lakers went against it. Every single injury from Mark Williams has been documented, and he has played a lot this year. So I don't understand where they saw where he failed his physical, because it's not failing a physical if everything that happened is documented in that situation. So for me, I do believe in what Mark Williams did. Now he is stuck back in basketball purgatory in the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah, the Charlotte Hornets are not a very good basketball team. You got LaMelo Ball, you got Mark Williams. I mean, they got some Brandon Miller, some decent pieces, but no one thinks that team's going to do something anytime soon. No one thinks that they're going to go win an NBA championship within the next 5 years. This is a really question mark for the Lakers. The Lakers need a center. I've seen people even start talking about LeBron playing a small ball 5. Like, you need a center. Alex Lynn and Max Christie can't be or not Max Christie, whoever they're.
Jackson Hayes.
Jackson Hayes, there it is. They can't be your starting centers. Like, I don't understand why they don't do this trade. They needed a center and then didn't get the center.
I feel like they believe that the Dalton Connect move was too big to give up, which I agree. But now we look at the Lakers. Luka Doncic has kind of struggled a little bit since being in that Lakers uniform. Do you guys believe that it is a system problem, ring rust, or what do you believe is the problem with Luka Doncic?
I think it's a little bit of he's getting his conditioning back up. Hadn't played for a minute, and it's also part of learning the Lakers system and learning how he needs to play with LeBron James. Obviously, playing with LeBron's a different task than any in the NBA, and it's just Luka. I think learning, getting his fitness back up. I think he'll be fine.
I think he's just I think this is what the Lakers are kind of turning him into, a role player for now until he can be more comfortable. I mean, he just doesn't look comfortable out there with his shooting. I mean, coming off an injury, it takes time to get your shot back, especially with the conditioning, gaining a little more weight during that injury. Just give him some more time, he'll be right where he needs to be.
Injuries are a big topic right now, guys. Victor Wembanyama is out for the year with a blood clot in his right shoulder. And, well, the Spurs playoff chance, play-in chance, down they go.
Yeah, that's a heartbreaking injury. Wembanyama, obviously, I don't think this team was playoff ready yet. I don't believe that it really hurts them now too much. The biggest thing that I will say is people need to, this is the time where, we ask people to check their sources. Because if you look at NBA, if you look at a lot of analysts and experts, they're saying Wembanyama may never play again. And we've been seeing that go around because it's like, oh, this can end his career. I can assure you that he will be just fine. And that's been the biggest issue now is all this information going around about Wembanyama this, Wembanyama that. He will be okay. This has happened to a lot of athletes. It happens to common athletes, freak of natures like Wembanyama. We saw this man literally twist an ankle, roll an ankle before a game, and then just walk it out. He didn't even grimace. I mean, this man is a freak of nature, and I do believe that he will be okay. And I just think that all this really does is just push back the Spurs maybe like half a season. I do not believe that this is as bad as people are making it seem.
And I kind of agree. I don't think it's going to be a career-ending injury or not injury, or a prognosis, you could say. But there have been some really good players who've ended their career because of blood clots.
Yeah.
Chris Bosh, first one to come to mind. His career ended because he had a blood clot too close to his heart and in his leg. So, of course, you want to say, well, hopefully it's not too bad, but
of course.
We don't really know. We're not professional doctors. We haven't seen what it looks like in Victor Wembanyama. So when you look at it, you just hope that for the best, because Victor is one of the best young players we've seen. This guy was the guy who was slated to be the next LeBron. He was the next generational pick, and he's shown it to this part. He's been an incredible defensive player, and offensively he's been great as well. This is the new and upcoming player, and now that he's had the setback, hopefully we can see him come back, not just because I'm not even a Spurs fan, but for the game of basketball, because of how good he is as a basketball player.
Absolutely. As a rookie, unanimous Rookie of the Year, he was extremely talented. It still is, obviously. He was currently favored for DPOY, averaging almost 4 blocks a game. prayers up to Wemby. Hope he recovers to the best of his ability and goes back up to 100%. But as we talk about rookies and rookie seasons, we're going to get into rookie report for the first time with 4 people on it. So I'm going to be starting off our rookie report, and mine will be Jacob Wilson from the Athletics. I'm keeping my Athletics theme going. He had a pretty good AAA. He batted .400 in AAA, and he's going to be probably an opening day starter. It's a team that does not have good shortstops, and I do believe that he will be one of those pieces that is very needed for a struggling Athletics team that's looking to turn things around. And I think, right now he's currently the 31st ranked prospect in all of baseball, and I do believe that he will be a big fix. What are you guys feeling about with Jacob Wilson coming into this next year?
I think this is a great guy for the Athletics. Again, we talked about them needing infield help. And they need help everywhere, but especially in the infield. And getting a shortstop, a top prospect at that, I feel like he can really step up.
I mean, you can see right here his opening day starter. I think he can be the starter come, mid-season. I think he's going to be very good shortstop. The Athletics, like you said, they need a lot of help. So we'll see how he can do if he can help the A's advance to being an actual competitive team in Major League Baseball. As we move, though, into my rookie, I want to move into basketball, and I have Isaiah Collier. We haven't really talked about him much this year because he isn't really doing much points per game-wise, but the assists is what catches your eye. You see here he's on pace to break John Stockton's record of rookie assists in a season. That was 5.1. He's currently at 5.7. In the last 5 weeks or so, he's been averaging near 8.8 assists per game, guys. This guy has been on fire, passing the ball, and been one of the best guards for the Jazz so far this season.
Last year, I sat in this chair at the draft and said, Isaiah Collier, we cannot forget his name, because he was at one point slated to be the #1 overall pick in the draft, and he fell all the way down to 29. Now we look at Collier. He is a pure point guard on a Jazz team with Keontae George that is going to be, I think they're going to be dangerous in years to come. And I do believe that Collier will be one of the biggest fits. I really like that rookie.
I mean, he's a solid rookie at the moment. Jazz team maybe a couple years away, but they got some pieces building up. They're building up a team where the Jazz could be pretty dominant for years to come down the road.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jackson?
You just wait until this guy can learn how to score the ball a lot better. I mean, you have this outside scorer who could be in the guard, and then you have Walker Kessler in the paint. I mean, it could be a dangerous team.
It's time for your rookie now, Jackson.
It is.
What you got?
I went back to baseball, and we went to Dylan Cruz, the Nationals right fielder, and he's a guy I just love to watch. And not the greatest stats in the MLB at the end of last year. Didn't get a whole lot of time either, but this national team, getting an outfielder, getting that kind of defense he also brings, he kind of gets overshadowed by Paul Skeens his entire career in college, and then being the 2nd overall pick, and now he gets his time to shine on what's going to be his team soon.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine. I mean, obviously the stats don't show from last season, but I think you give him a full off season to work with the Nationals, a full season of playing ball with the Nationals. I think he'll be just fine.
Yeah, I mean, as we look at Dylan Cruz, this national team is going to turn things around, and I do believe that they're going to be really good. Nate, your rookie, what are you kind of feeling for this week?
I was thinking, maybe go with the MVP of the Rising Stars. Just a slight little MVP.
It's a fair
Stephon
pick.
Castle. I mean, he played very well. He did very well in the dunk contest as well. Came second to Mac McClung, but he had some good dunks. He kind of brought it back. I mean, that little back and forth. I mean, McClung won it by a long shot, but he's a young, upcoming player. I'm not really sure exactly where he fits in. The next Chris Paul, filling Chris Paul's role when Chris Paul retires. Mm-hmm. But we got him, you got Fox, you got Wemby. I mean, that Spurs team with Castle could be really good in the coming years.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I see exactly where he fits in. It's Chris Paul out, Castle in. Mm-hmm. And it will be the most seamless transition for a team losing a potential future Hall of Famer. It's just by putting in a guy that knows how to win. 2 championships at UConn. Castle, current favorite rookie of the year. He has been fantastic for this team. But as you know, we're going to look and take a quick break, and then we're going to go look at some mock drafts. 9 more weeks until mock drafts. I'm the first one up with my mock draft. Back soon on Grand Slam Sports.
It feels like we can't go even a week without the National Football League. So we're going to begin some mock drafts. And first up, Charles Foster.
Yeah,
Let's see where you go.
Who would want to go a week without NFL football? We're going to be talking about some mock drafts. We have exactly 9 weeks until until the draft is back. So each of us now get to do our 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0s throughout the week. It'll be mine first. So we're going to look at my mock draft. Spent a lot of time on this. And we're going to go in a little bit into sections, but this is as we start it right here. So we're going to look at 1 through 16 to start. And we're going to see what they have to say about it. As we look at number 1, I actually have the Titans going Abdul Carter as we kind of talk about that. Titans said they will not pass up on a generational talent, and Abdul Carter, in my opinion, is the closest thing to that. I do not believe that a quarterback or Cam Ward will change them coming into this stacked class next year. Nate, I see your face. Doesn't look like you're rocking with a pick. What are you seeing here that you're not rocking with?
Well, first thing off the bat, let's just throw this out here. You said a generational talent. Well, you picked the wrong generational talent to go first overall. Travis Hunter is the best talent in this draft, and there's no question about it.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that. I beg to differ. I do believe that Abdul Carter, when it comes to NFL and his body and what he can do, will be better than Travis Hunter. I don't necessarily believe that the Titans need the stigma that will come with Travis Hunter and the following from the Colorado. I do think that if I'm going to pass up on a quarterback, I'd rather pass up on Abdul Carter and not Travis Hunter. As we're going to kind of look at this 1 through 16 here, a little bit deeper. Of course, Jets, Will Campbell, I do believe that we go tackle here. Looking at your Browns, I have you guys going Cam Ward because if he falls to you, I do not have you guys passing up on him. What are you feeling about a potential Cam Ward bring?
As a Browns fan, I don't think we really need Cam Ward. I don't think Cam Ward pushes us over anything. And when you're looking at the number 2 pick like we have, and if it is what you have, Abdul Carter going number 1, I think we got to take the best position off the board because we're not a quarterback away. I mean, I'm realistic to know that we're not a quarterback away from winning a championship. And to draft Cam Ward, in my mind, either we trade down or we draft somebody who can be a staple in another position. And that's why I think Travis Hunter is that guy. I think Travis Hunter can start at corner for us, pair him with Denzel Ward. We have Williams as that nickel corner, and then have him come in to play some offense as well. And I just like the Travis Hunter number 2 pick. What about you guys?
I mean, I disagree. I think the Browns need a quarterback now. That's just my opinion. I think that's why you did that. The Browns just can't be stuck in quarterback purgatory. They need to draft a guy that can maybe be the guy in Cam Ward. I would have preferred maybe Shadur at that second spot, but it's an argument. I don't like either of them too much as a top 10 pick this year anyways.
I don't like, you're completely right. Both quarterbacks, neither quarterback has a first-round grade. I mean, we knew that coming in. So I personally would rather just wait and get a Jackson Dart with a later pick or a quarterback who could do something later on in his career with a pick that's not the second pick in the draft.
Yeah, I don't hate it. As we look down, I do not see the Giants passing up a quarterback no matter what. They got to keep neighbors happy. I feel like they go quarterback. As we look at Travis Hunter, these are pretty normal picks. But now we start to go a little bit of a question. I know Jace might not be the happiest about this one. I have Tyler Warren going number 9 to the Saints. I do believe that Tyler Warren is the missing offensive piece that the Saints need. I do think that they either go him or they go edge rusher, and I have them going Tyler Warren here just by a slight edge. Jace, I know you had him going to the Colts. What are you kind of feeling about a Tyler Warren pick to the?
I don't think he's going that high. I don't think the Saints will go tight end. I don't know if they need. I mean, they could use one. I don't think they go Tyler Warren at 9 though. I think there's better players that'll be available at that 9th pick. And if I'm the Saints, I'm going with somebody that can make more of an impact than Warren can.
Yep, absolutely. And most of these are pretty normal, nothing really too, no real jumps. Obviously, we'll talk about Colts. Jahdae Barron, I have you guys going cornerback. And I think that is the biggest need for this Colts team. And I see your face. I'm questioning on what you believe. You know, obviously, I know you guys want Tyler Warren, but if Tyler Warren's not on the block.
Well, my second one was Malachi Starks, but you see he's a pick above. So that's also kind of annoying. But I mean, Barron's not bad. A corner, I'm sure we wouldn't mind. We need a lockdown corner. We haven't really, had one. A safety, I think, is our bigger need than corner. I think safety and tight end are our 2 big needs if I want Warren and Starks. Barron wouldn't be the worst thing. If both of them are gone, Barron would probably be my next best pick, or even that guy, Mike Barron, an edge rusher. I mean, we don't need one, but I mean, Mike Green is very good for Marshall.
Mike Green, absolute beast. As we're going to look at the second half of things, this is where I got a few more reaches. NFL draft is going to have reaches. I also have some people falling. So first reach is Benjamin Morrison. I believe the Buccaneers make a call where they draft what they need, not just because they need it. I know you're a Notre Dame fan.
I am.
James Pierce, I have falling. That's been a question mark for a while. is, does James Pierce fall? He's a top 10 prospect overall, but I have him falling to 18 to the Seahawks. On top of that, these are two pretty normal picks. But for the most part, I think we have some jumps here. But one of the biggest ones that made me kind of eyebrow raise of no way this actually happens is Shamir Stewart to the Ravens. An extremely talented player, has potential to fall. This edge class is very, very, very packed. How do you feel about some of these edges that are potential top 20 picks that are now, in my mock draft at least, have these later grades?
There's a lot of edges. I mean, you have James Pierce at 18. I think he's a top 10 talent in this draft. Nick Scourton actually like above Shamar Stewart. Nick Scourton's a heck of a talent. I watched him play Notre Dame earlier this year in that Week 1 game. A&M has two very good edge rushers, and they're both, I think, first-round great edge rushers.
Absolutely.
But, I mean, this draft class is loaded. And so if you're a team looking for an edge rusher and one of the better first ones, second ones are gone, you can wait. There's plenty of rushers that are going to be available in that top second round, mid-second round. Yeah,
there's a lot of edge rushers that are on the boards and a lot of good teams. There are a lot of teams that need a kind of a signature edge rusher. Maybe the Browns would trade Myles Garrett, but who knows about that. I'm keen on a 1, and it is 26 with Colston Loveland falling. I think he gets a little bit higher. He's one of the guys I think he's a top end that draft in. You're talking about Colts, Tyler Warren.
I don't think we would reach for 14. I don't think we would reach Loveland at 14. At 14.
Would you trade back a couple spots and take Loveland?
And that is a very Chris Ballard thing to do. Our GM loves to trade back. If the top two guys that we want are gone, we can trade back into that mid-20 area and also regain a pick in day 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we look at my mock draft, we're going to use that to close off. Jace will be next week with his mock draft. I'm Charles Foster, joined with Jace Hodge and Nate Long. Have a good night.